Welcome to Chromolution.com. I'm Stephen Burns, and we're going to continue our exploration of utilizing the pen tool to outline my subject matter. And because this has a fairly smooth and somewhat of a harder edge to it, the pen tool is going to be ideal for this. Let's go ahead and get a little closer. Zoom in a little bit, holding down my Alt and my spacebar together. What I'm doing is I'm laying points on either side of a curve. Now, if you look at this shape here, this is not one continuous curve. There's actually two separate curves here. Now, for example, if I go ahead and lay a point here on this side of the curve, lay another point, and tap down and hold the mouse and start to pull, you'll see that my shape isn't actually outlining this as accurately as I would like, because this is actually two separate curves, one here and one right about here. So I'm going to undo this one, and I'm going to lay down the point at the where the first curve basically ends, which is right about here. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom in a little closer so that you can see a little bit better what's happening here. So we start here, place it here, and trace the shape in front of me. And as you can see, this back end falls right into line because the curve ends here. Here's the second curve right up in here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down, holding down the space bar, click and hold and drag it, and there we have it. It's going to outline it accurately. So if you take note where the handlebar is actually pointing, and the direction and the flow of my shape is actually flowing in a completely opposite direction. So if I decide to lay down a point at the base of the next curve, right about here, look what happens to the line behind it. It's flowing in the direction of my handlebar. I don't want it to flow in that manner, not in this particular example anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and Command or Control Z to undo it. And I'm going to basically start fresh again. Hold my Alt or my Option key if you're on the Macintosh and tap it. That last point, it gets rid of the handlebar. That way you can start fresh. So now I'm looking at the curve starting here. It flows. It actually starts to subside right about in there. And as you get better with the pen tool, you will be able to outline highly sophisticated shapes with very few points. There we are. So you notice the back end just jumps right into place. Now, have another curve. It starts here and it basically subsides right about in there. So I'm going to put down a point here, and you can tell that it pretty much already just snaps to the chin. I'm probably a little bit far behind. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. You can see that the curve right in here is moving just a little bit out a little further than I want it to be. Hold your Command and Control key. That gives you your direct selection tool, or the white arrow tool, for selecting your points. And if you move it up closer, you can reposition it as you want. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to just move it right about there, and that seems to work a little bit better. All right, so let's go ahead and complete this curve. It starts there, right where we have the last point, and I'm going to go ahead and take it to right about here, click and hold and drag. Now see, my curve was disconnected because I was playing around with the direct selection tool. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command Z, and if your curve becomes disconnected, it's very simple. Take your pen tool, just tap and release on the last one. That reconnects it and will unify it once again. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little closer, move it on over, and let's go ahead and complete this curve. Click and hold and drag, and you'll see I'm tracing this shape in front of my line. So I probably moved, I'm going to have to pull it out just a little bit more, and it's moving in a direction that I don't necessarily want this line to go. So once again, in situations like this, Alt or Option, click on it and create a new curve. So I'm going to create a curve right about there, outline the chin. It appears that this line is moving in a direction I want it to. The curve starts here, it subsides right about in here. Click and hold. That's a little bit too strong, so we're going to, once again, we're going to hold the Alt or Option key, select it, and I'm going to start to create my shape. Now everything's moving in a basically the direction I want it to. Now look at my handlebars. They're not going in this direction or this direction. They're flowing along the shape of my object here. So click and hold and drag, click and hold and drag. I'm just placing points on either side of my curves. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt or Option and start fresh again here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer so you can get a little better idea of where I am. And bring it across, dragging it once again, bringing this across. I have a curve that subsides right about there. There we go. Take this and see it's coming out a little bit too strong. So you're going to come up against situations. This is one of them. And I'm going to just simply Alt or Option, click on the last point, start my curve again. Now that's flowing quite nicely. It ends right about in there. There we are. And let's go back over to here. It ends right about here, and I'm going to click and drag, and it flows right into place. See how that's working? So once in a while you have to press the Alt key. You should be able to get it in quite a number of the times where you don't have to. If you do, just go ahead and use your Alt or your Option key. I'm going to pull this back just a little bit, and I'm going to try to pull this. There we go. That's going to flow. Now you notice I really have two separate curves here. It's not really flowing exactly to the shape. I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. So go back. Let's go back to this curve. Let's designate this as one curve there. It flows quite nicely. I'm going a little bit closer. Come back over. Starts here. The other curve seems to subside right about here. And I'm going to see I'm tracing this shape in front of my pen. There. As long as the handlebar is flowing, you have another little nice little curve here. Click and hold and drag. So I'm tracing the shape. The back end of my path falls right into line. And do the same thing here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Option key here because I have a little bit of a subtle curve. Make it low. I definitely have to go Option here because the shape is completely changing direction on me on the statue there. Let's bring it on across. Once again, I'm going to have to change my angle, start fresh again, Option click. It's a slight little curve right in there. Bring it on back out. Curve starts here, ends right about here. Click and drag. It outlines. Now, remember, these handlebars are flowing exactly with the shapes. I have a nice, long, subtle shape here. So actually, it's two subtle little curves, one to here and one over to this section. Click and hold and give it a slight little pull. Come back into here, do the same thing. There we go. That works. And let's come back to here and pull this into place. There we are. All right, let's get in a little closer. And you can see right back in here it didn't line up perfectly, but hold the Control or the Command key, and we can go adjust our handlebars accordingly on either side. Okay, so click it here, click the handlebar, and I can make some adjustments. And there we are. We have a fairly decent adjustment. There we are. Kind of adjust that correctly. Now, if I see it disconnected once again, I was playing with the direct selection tool, and let's go back, reconnect it here. In fact, I'm gonna hold the Alt key and start fresh, and just go ahead and give that little bit of a curve right in here. It just simplifies matters just a little bit. Go right about in here. The handlebars flow in a different direction because it was necessary for me to outline this portion of the curve. Alt or Option, come back across, and let's try this. There we go. Pull it across, a little bit of a stronger. There we are. Let's go ahead and put a point here. Give it a slight drag. It's necessary to go to Option because the curve is going into a completely different direction. Let's outline the hair. So we're up in the hair portion of our object, and looking at the curves, placing points on either sides of the curves, making sure that the handlebar is flowing. So I have some large curves. There we go. And I have some teeny little curves right about there, but because the handlebar was necessary to pull it out to give this a little bit more slack, we're just going to have to use our Option or Alt key, pull it, drag it right about there. That's a nice short little pull there, so it shouldn't be giving me too much of a problem. Bring it across, outlining the hair. Remember, these are a series of curves here, so you have to identify where they are. Pull, pull. You get very good with the pen tool, you'll be able to outline highly sophisticated shapes with very few points. Alright, go ahead, the Option key, pull this on down. It probably could be a little tighter. We're not going to worry about it. Pull it right across to here. to here, pull it right onto there. Again, I'm going on either 2 points on either sides of the curve. Oop, that's a little too strong of a curve, huh? Let's go ahead and pull this out a little bit. Reconnect it. Option or Alt. Give myself a nice little point there. I have a little curve that comes right about to there. There we are. Let's outline this. This should work right about in here. There. Okay. That's connected here. I could have probably started way over here, but no big deal. Nice little pull. I'm putting points on either side to the curve. I have a nice long one in here. I'm pulling out. So you see how I'm zooming in and out of the monitor, because as you're working as an artist in Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and put a point here and then tighten it up right in here. I'm just going to be just slightly inside the hair since I'm going to put it onto its own layer. Here we are. Okay, so as we're working as an artist in Photoshop, you know, the whole game here is expression, is working like an artist, thinking like an artist. So, and that's what I'm trying to share with you with the pen tool here, is not this technical aspect of the pen tool, but the artistic approach to use it as if you're drawing lines. Okay, I'm going to kind of pull in a little closer. So if you need to pull in closer, do it. Okay, pull this across. Oop, let's go ahead and go back. Option, go ahead and continue to outline these shapes. Connect it right about in here. There we are. And another little shape right about in there. Have another one coming across, and pull that nice and tight right over here. So I'm around the edge of the hair. Let's actually pull back so you can see what I'm doing so far. So I'm outlining the shape. I'm almost done. It might take you guys a little bit longer, and I'm going fairly slow actually, because if I'm doing this on my own without a tutorial, I will be moving 2 to 3 times faster than I'm actually doing now, because I'm actually pretty familiar with the pen tool. So let's go over here, bring it across, pull it on down. Oops, that was a little tight there. So Option, start fresh, pull it across. Remember, we're just putting points on either sides of the curves here. Okay. I'm going to connect it right down in here. It's a little bit of a tight curve, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Option key, and I have a nice long one over here, and this one should work pretty well if I just place it onto this side. Okay, Option, another subtle little curve, Option, another subtle little curve, another one up in here. Let's pull it on across, pull it on down. So just outlining that hair. I think you guys are getting the point here. Let's get in a little closer. And once again, Option, connect this. It's a nice little long section here, a subtle little curve here. Let's pull it on out. Let's see if we can outline most of the neck in one little swoop. Right about there. Pull it. Yeah, that works pretty well. Option, disconnect it, and pull it right down in here. All right, I'm going to bring the points out. Let's zoom this off so we're off the page. Bring it all the way around. Let's connect down here with the shoulder. Nice sweeping curve right across here. Connect it. Another long sweeping curve. Let's see if we can connect this whole shoulder just in this, by closing the curve and dragging it right about there. That works okay. All right, let's go ahead and select it. Command 0. Here's my shape. Now, once again, go to your direct selection tool right below your pen tool. Okay, right below the pen tool here. The black one, once again, for the path selection tool, will select the entire path. The white one will select individual points. So you'll come into here and you inspect your points and make sure that they are where you want them to be. Make sure that the lines and the curves are flowing where you want them to be. If not, you can make little corrections to the handlebars or to the points. So for this tutorial here, I have a little bit of a correction I can make here. Kind of pull that little curve on up, select this point. I have a little additional point that I need there, so pull it. So the idea was to actually place points on either sides of the curve, on each of the curves. So the whole trick here is identifying the curves, then working more like an artist, where you're actually drawing and outlining your object with the pen tool. All right, so I'm fairly happy with this one here. Let's go to our path palette, double click it, call it what you want. I'm going to click OK. That saves the path with the object. So if I hit Command S, it will save everything. And all I need to do is either hit this button right here in the middle that will alter the path into a selection, or Command or Control, click on the path icon, and that makes your marching ants. Now we're going to place this into its own layer. I'm going to select a layer. Then I'm going to go to Select Menu, and I'm going to feather this because the edge of my object isn't a solid edge. It's much more of a softer edge. Go to Modify, Feather, and we'll go about 1 pixel in this example. Now I'm going to hit Command or Control J, which duplicates whatever is inside this selection, and there it is. Okay, so what can I do from here? Let's create a brand new layer, and click the layer button right here next to the garbage can. Let's go to my gradient tool. This is the number 6 tool down on the right hand side, and I'm going to say select the radial gradient here. And I think what I'm going to do is make the background color more of a lighter gray, and keep the foreground color, I should say, is the lighter gray, and I'm going to keep the background color as a black. We're using the layer beneath it. We're going to apply that effect to layer beneath it, drag it out from the center, and we get a little bit of a nice little radial highlight on our subject matter. So once again, we're placing objects into their own layer so that we can apply all of Photoshop's commands and tools to each object independently from the entire scene. Okay, so now we can go and apply something like a curves, and apply all types of effects just to my top layer, which is my portrait. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully it was very helpful to you. And before we go, let's go ahead and get in close and inspect the edges of my object. See how clean this is? Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, that's nice and clean. Even if I say so myself, that's a nice, beautiful selected image. All right, so that's it. And make sure you come back to chromolution.com. We will have more tutorials. You'll find them in the beginning and intermediate and advanced sections of the website. And make sure you check out some of the compositing examples as well. Okay? All right, so this is Stephen Burns, and I look forward to working with you again.